Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, and thank you so much for joining me today. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so much guys for coming back. Today's video is about my APC year, how I almost didn't make it to the final exam, and how I passed the final exam. APC is the Assessment of Professional Competency. It is the last board exam that you will ever write in South Africa to qualify as a chartered accountant. You can only write this exam if you have your ITC. You have at least 18 months of training by the time you write the exam. You also have to register for a board course before you write it. Before I start, I just want to say all the best to everyone that will be writing their APC exam in the next 2-3 weeks. APC this year is going to be written on the 6th of December and the pre-release is on the 1st of December. So all the best guys. So coming back to me, my story, before I give you the full picture of what happened that year, I just want to highlight a few things that I did wrong and how I rectified them. Firstly, I didn't prioritize APC at all during my APC year. I never prepared well for the tests, and I had to write a sub to actually qualify for the final. First test that I wrote, I got borderline. Borderline is between competent and not competent. And the second one, I was not competent. What I used to do was rely a lot on other people's work. I used to print everything that I could find on the drives that were shared by other groups and my group members and put it on my file. I didn't even know what was in my file. I was just taking whatever that made sense. And I used to doubt my own work a lot. Also, I wasn't paying too much attention in terms of what was expected of me. Those are the things that I picked up on my APC year. Starting the year, preparing for the first test. We attended the first lecture in Roodepoort. I remember it was in person, where the lecturers were taking us through how the program was going to unfold, what is expected from me and what I can expect from the lectures. And straight after that, we started preparing. At some point, I started neglecting my work, and I prioritized work and not my schoolwork. And I wasn't putting 100% effort. I was not even reading. Like, I used to get bored reading all these case studies, which was a big problem, obviously. Come the first test, I used people's work. There was nothing there that was my own. I wasn't so confident in my own work at that time, I remember, because I saw other people's work and it looked so good. So I was just like, I'm taking that, I'm putting it in my file, and I took my own work out. Wrote the first paper and I was borderline, which is lukewarm, between competent and not competent. Anyway, I was happy with that because a lot of people were borderline. Then the second test came. Now this test, I had to get a C, a competent, for me to get to the final. I didn't. All my group members made it to the final and I did not. I was actually a not competent at that time. So I had to write a sub. I remember the week when I got the results of not competent. I was in Beaufort West. I had been booked there for 2 months. That week I was just so distracted. I couldn't work. I just wanted to get back to Cape Town, get my books and start preparing for the sub. So eventually I got to Cape Town, started preparing for my sub. And in that time, when I was reflecting on the year, I realized that I had to play catch up because I wasn't giving it like 100% when I was preparing for all these tests and all the weekly exercises that we were doing. When I looked into the papers that I had written, hey, I was writing like I am still an ITC or a CTA student. I wasn't even connecting the dots between the pre-release information and the information on the day. Like, my papers were based on only the information on the day, completely neglecting what was said in the first paper. And at that time, I started strategizing how I need to prepare for the sub and ensure I get into the final. I didn't have enough time to catch up for the whole year. So I just needed to take what I could take, prepare for the sub and ensure that I pass it so that I can then now start strategizing for the final. So I wrote the sub, I passed it. I remember I got the results like mid-October or towards the end of October for the sub, that I was going to write the final exam. I was so relieved, I was so happy, but I was still nervous because I felt like I didn't know enough to write the final. So I started preparing for the final by printing out past papers from SAICA website. I would print out the pre-release, the day of the paper on the day, as well as the suggested solution. And I would go through that in detail just to understand what was expected of me in terms of answering. One thing I realized at that point as well was that I really wasn't bad when it comes to the technicality of things. I wasn't bad at all. But my problem was how I delivered my work, like how I was writing it. I wasn't addressing the audience. I was basically dumping information, not really linking it to the scenarios and to the pre-release scenario, you know? So I started going through all of that and being brutal with myself, like with what I needed to improve on. And out of those papers, I think I did about 10. I wasn't writing them. I was just reading. And I only wrote 1 out of all the 10. And a week before the final, we had an opportunity to consult with the lecturers once again. And I made sure to book a slot with a lecturer because I really needed someone to just advise me and answer the questions that I had. And one of the things that the lecturers said was that you need to know your pre-release so well that if I were to wake you mid-December, you would tell me exactly or in detail what's happening in that case study. And she said, you don't have to, don't memorize it, just know it in detail. 2, she said, when you meet up with your group, don't split triggers. Focus on all the triggers, come back and debrief on everything that you have identified. And then when she said that, I felt like, okay, they've been saying this throughout the year and we haven't been listening. And we were just still splitting triggers. And for some people, I guess it was working, but for me, it wasn't working. So I decided that for the final exam, I was going to own my file. I was going to own my work. I was going to own my preparation. I didn't want anyone's opinion or anyone's preparation or thoughts in my file. It had to be everything that I had prepared or I had read online. But when we met with my group the first day with the triggers, we still split the triggers. I mean, I wasn't going to tell people not to split the triggers. We had been splitting them the whole year, but I told myself that I'm going to focus on all of them. When we came to the day of debriefing, I knew exactly what was happening with each trigger. I knew the case study so well. Like I had been reading that case study. Guys, I don't know how many times I read that case study. Like I would print a new paper every day in the morning and in the evening before I go home. I would read that case study. I would do like a mind map. I'll show you guys. I still have the pictures. I'll do a mind map of what I have gathered from the case study. I'll take it home, I'll paste it on the wall, read it before I sleep. When I wake up, I'll read it and I'm like, okay, cool, this is what's happening. Like I made my 5 days of preparation all about, you know, APC, no distractions whatsoever. I lived in that case study. And we debriefed with my group. I remember I was so glad that we were only meeting twice because now I didn't want to be around people, honestly speaking, that time. I wanted to be by myself and really prepare well because on the day of the exam, it's just you. So that's what I did throughout the 5 days. I prepared. And day before the paper, I am a believer of not studying day before the exam, or at least study or prepare your things until midday. I did exactly that. That's how I prepared for my APC. The final results came out on the 14th of Feb 2020.
Hello everyone. So today is the 15th of February 2020. I am going for my park run as usual. It's a Saturday. Guys, dipasile. Yo, how does it feel like to wake up knowing that all these years when I pushed, all these years just ngelinye imini ndiyoze nami ndiyipase le nto nami ndiyoze ndigqibe. I don't know, like Basile, and I'm so happy, and